Midnight, Moscow. 5 governments test a way to buy oil without dollars. Gold bars stacked like bricks of silence. Across Beijing, Brasilia, New Delhi, and Pretoria, secure lines crackle. Not a speech, a plan. If one currency decides who trades, who borrows, who gets punished, build a world where that currency doesn't get the last word. You've heard the headline, BRICS wants to kill the dollar. Here's the truth behind the drama. It's not one knockout punch, it's 1,000 small cuts. If this spreads, your fuel, your loans, and your portfolio don't price the same again. Stay with me, I'll show you the plumbing that makes it real. This is the story of how a loose club, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, plus new friends, went from acronym to threat. Chapter 1. The bloc that hates asking permission. BRICS began as an economist's shorthand. It became a statement. Individually, they're regional heavyweights. Together, they represent roughly 40% of the world's people and about a quarter of global GDP in nominal terms, closer to approximately 35% on a PPP basis. That's enough mass to bend rules. With expansions pulling in oil giants and major markets, BRICS Plus touches an even larger slice of trade and energy. Their grievance is simple. The dollar isn't just money, it's a switch. Most cross-border trade clears in USD. Most commodities are priced in it. If you anger Washington, the rails you need, banks, swift messages, clearinghouses, can vanish overnight. So, BRICS pitched itself as the Global South's answer: parallel banks, new payment pipes, bilateral swap lines. Not to burn the house down, just to install side doors. Chapter 2. The gold-backed temptation. Then came the seduction. A BRICS currency. Call it the R5. Call it a BRICS coin, not a meme. A settlement unit partly backed by gold and partly by a basket of member currencies, riding on digital rails outside Western choke points. Why gold? Because you can freeze accounts. You can't freeze metal in your own vault. Across the bloc, central banks have been heavy gold buyers. Think of those bars as political insurance, collateral that doesn't answer to sanctions. In the pitch deck, it looks elegant. Tokenized claims on bullion, lower FX slippage, fewer dollar swings hitting your import bill. If even a fraction of intra-BRICS trade moves onto that rail, the saved basis points add up to billions, reinvested at home instead of soaked up by middlemen. But elegance isn't execution. A common currency needs a shared central bank, convergence rules, a fiscal backstop, and trust that survives a crisis. Europe spent decades building the euro. It still argues every storm. BRICS spans rivals, ideologies, and uneven trade ties. Not all of them want to give anyone else a vote on their money. Chapter 3. De-dollarization by 1,000 workarounds. So, they chose the practical battlefield, plumbing. Oil shipments priced in something other than USD, sometimes yuan, sometimes dirhams, sometimes via swaps. Concrete receipt. When sanctions bit, Indian refiners began paying for Russian crude in UAE dirhams, clearing cargoes without touching dollars. Russia rerouted energy sales east in non-USD units. China and Russia expanded their own messaging networks to bypass SWIFT. Brazil and China agreed to settle directly in each other's currencies. The BRICS Development Bank lifted the share of loans in local money. Swap lines multiplied, greasing trade even when dollars are scarce or politically risky. None of this makes headlines like death of the dollar, but it changes behavior. If you can clear a payment without New York's help, you will, especially if you fear tomorrow's sanctions. That's how monopolies end, not with a bang, but with alternatives. Chapter 4. The numbers the hype can't ignore. The dollar still dominates. Roughly 9 out of 10 FX trades touch it. Most global debt is dollar-denominated. Most commodity pricing still starts in USD. But look at reserves. 2 decades ago, central banks held approximately 70% in dollars. Today it's approximately 57 to 58%. Where did the share go? Into gold, into selective non-USD assets. Not because America stopped being innovative, because the dollar became a weapon. When one country's reserves were frozen, dozens of finance ministries updated the same spreadsheet. Exposure to seizure risk, too high. The hedge is obvious. Hold more of what can't be blocked. Build more ways to pay that can't be switched off. That shift alone doesn't dethrone a currency, but it does something just as important. It chips away at habit, and in money, habit is power. Chapter 5. Fault lines in the dream. Now the part the fanboys skip. BRICS isn't a choir, it's a negotiation. China's economic weight makes others suspicious of a de facto yuan zone. India protects strategic autonomy and dislikes ceding monetary control. Brazil remembers currency crises and values flexibility. South Africa has growth priorities at home. Russia wants immediate relief from sanctions, not a decade-long institution-building exercise. Add border tensions, different political systems, and asymmetric trade that mostly runs through China. Ask the hard question. If a BRICS currency stumbles in a crisis, who bails out whom? No one wants a central bank they don't control. That's why the realistic plan isn't a shiny coin tomorrow. It's deeper local currency trade, resilient payment pipes, and more gold in the vault. Today. Chapter 6. The real twist. Optionality wins. Commentary obsesses over a single new king. That misses the plot. The short-term winner isn't BRICS coin, it's optionality. If oil can clear in yuan, fertilizers in rupees, machinery via swaps, and savings park in gold, the dollar doesn't vanish. It just stops being the only door. When more doors exist, pricing power fragments. Sanctions sting less, negotiations change. And with choice, leverage moves from the issuer to the user. For the US, the threat is not collapse, it's erosion. Lower structural demand for dollars nudges borrowing costs up. Crisis flows diversify, financial diplomacy loses bite. The defense is clear: keep innovation and capital markets unmatched, treat the payment rails as infrastructure, not a casual weapon, and keep real alliances tight. For BRICS, the trap is ego. Push too fast toward a single currency, and you trigger the very mistrust you're trying to escape. Move relentlessly on plumbing, and you win without a coronation. Chapter 7. Two futures. Future A. The grand currency stalls. The dollar remains first among many. BRICS still wins cheaper payments and partial independence. Future B. Incremental deals hit a tipping point. More oil in non-USD, a credible tokenized gold unit for settlement, and a psychology shift where default USD becomes choose USD. Both futures end the same way. A world of many monies. Less efficient, maybe. More resilient, definitely. And far harder for any single capital to control. Empires don't fall when someone shouts. They tilt when everyone quietly chooses a different door. Do you think BRICS needs a single currency to change the game? Or is optionality already enough to dent the dollar's power? Drop your take in the comments.